The penultimate installment of SAARF's All Media and Product Survey has good, important and relevant insight for the marketing community, particularly into media consumption. SAARF Senior Researcher Mpho Mathebula, welcome. Thanks very much for talking to us today. Some interesting things emerging from this, as I say, of value to the marketing community. Just remind us, though, for the non-marketing audience, what does the survey set out to do?
Okay, AMPS stands for the All Media and Products Survey, and it's a survey that interviews plus or minus 25,000 15-plus adults in a 12-month period.
Closest friends, huh?
And we do it nationally. It's a national survey, so it's the second biggest survey after the census, so it's quite big. And the results that come out of this are very interesting, as we're going to see as we get into the figures.
Let's focus then on newspapers if we can, and not unsurprisingly, the downward trend for newspapers continues. What have you established in that respect?
Yes, the downward trend for newspapers continues, and we see that the culprit here is the daily newspapers. We see that they have lost significantly. The figures have gone down from 28.6% in the previous survey to 27.3% in the current survey. And the provinces that have been affected mostly are Limpopo and the Western Cape. And for Limpopo, it's mainly the Daily Sun and Sowetan.
That percentage move would be statistically significant. That would make the newspaper industry sit up and notice.
Yes, yes, it's statistically significant for dailies. For weeklies, though, they've remained unchanged. They haven't been as affected as the daily newspapers.
All right, so that's the newspaper side of things. Time always is against us, so let's move on to magazines. Also statistically stable, which I guess is good news, because there is concern in that part of the sector, isn't there?
Yes, because people have sort of stopped buying magazines, but it's good to know that the magazine figures have remained unchanged or unaffected. Yeah, and there is a downward trend, though. Even though it's statistically stable, there's a downward trend also for the magazines, once again in Limpopo and the Western Cape and KZN.
What is it with Limpopo?
I don't know. We could attribute it maybe to the political unrest that happened in those two provinces, in Limpopo and in the Western Cape. Yeah, but we, as you know, for AMPS, we don't ask the why part. We just ask you, what do you read?
Perhaps someone needs to ask that question.
Yeah.
Okay. The DSTV shows continue with growth, and that adds to an increase, or a stable, should I say, platform as far as television is concerned. But while DSTV is showing some improvement, there is concern about the three principal terrestrial channels.
Yes.
What have you learned there? ETV
has lost viewers significantly, once again in the Western Cape and in Limpopo and in KZN. But in the Western Cape, we see that DSTV has gained viewers significantly, especially in the higher LSMs, in LSM 8 to 10. But when it comes to SABC1, SABC1 has lost viewers significantly. SABC2 is trending downwards. SABC3 has remained stable or unaffected, in terms of TV. I
suppose we could have a conversation about generations and what happened there, but we don't have time to do that. Okay. Radio listening shows little change. Total listening level steady at about 92.2%. But radio is always pretty stable, isn't it?
Yes, radio is always pretty stable, and there isn't much change happening there. But the interesting part is that community radio stations are trending upwards. And if you look at the number of stations that we measured in the previous survey, we measured 255 radio stations. Currently, we measure 279. Out of that, 239 are community stations. So people have much more access to many more community stations. So that contributes to the upward trend in the community radio listenership.
I could ask you how the community stations in Limpopo are doing, but you don't need to answer, you don't need to answer that. Just a final one for you. Not a statistically significant increase, but access to cell phones continues to trend up. And this is astonishing. 89.3% of adults surveyed have access to cell phones. That is critical information for any brand trying to push through that particular platform.
The figures have grown for all LSM groups. For LSM 1 to 4, they are now standing at 80.7% of people in that LSM group who have access to cell phones. And then for LSM 5 to 7, they are standing at 90.1%. When you look at LSM 8 to 10, you have 95.4% of people in LSM 8 to 10 who have access to cell phones. And this also adds to the fact that now we have many more people listening to the radio via their cell phones, because so many people have access to the cell phones. The figure is standing at 40.6% of the 15-plus population that listen to their radios via the cell phones.
Mpho Mathebula from SAARF, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.